So that brings us right into the next topic that I want to talk about, which is a very interesting one, and that's the way that prop lines move. Now, line movement, of course, is a hugely popular topic during the regular season. Everyone talks about the movements of standard lines during the year, what causes them to move, what the significance of the moves are, and all that. So let's talk a little bit about the way Super Bowl prop lines move. I guess A, how much do they tend to move, and B, what causes them to move? Now, the Super Bowl, of course, is one of those relatively rare events where public money can overwhelm sharp money and be the primary influence on line moves. So is that the same way with props? I mean, does the public move prop lines as well, or is it more the sharp money? I mean, you know, if you're talking about sharp guys taking out home equity loans to be able to get down as much as they can on the early lines, well, then obviously I would expect a ton of early movement and entirely due to sharp action, right?
I'll tell you, you need to go to the Hilton on Tuesday night. There will be a line of 40 people. Every one of them will have at least $100,000 to bet props. Each person will be allowed to only bet two bets, $2,000 bets, and then you got to go to the end of the line. So that's how they spread the wealth among the sharps so no one gets mad. But yeah, there are two kinds of line movement. There is, as soon as the prop comes out, there are the sharps that are going to hammer it. So within 20 minutes, most books, you know, are out. The Hilton will have sharp lines within 20, 30 minutes of them putting them up. The other books will trickle out later. And you know, usually within an hour or two, since their times aren't as definite, their lines will get sharper. But within, you know, if you aren't betting until the next morning, you've missed 80% of the value. Now, the other kind of line that you'll see is that a lot of value on is game day. If you don't, you know, if you're not hitting the openers, wait till game day. And half an hour before the game goes, you're betting against the public. I mean, the public has just crazy amounts of money that they will bet that this game is going into overtime, and that Peyton Manning's going to throw over 2.5 touchdowns. And I mean, just anything that sounds like an exciting game, you're going to bet against. Every year you're going to root for the most boring game in the world. All
right, so what you're saying is that the lines definitely do get a lot sharper on opening and very quickly, but then on game day the lines actually get less sharp because of huge public action, and value starts to appear on game day where it didn't exist before because the recreational action just pushes the lines in the wrong direction?
Well, there's two kinds of props. There are two kinds of value. There's openers. If an opener is at the wrong price, you pound it. Sometimes there's an opener that is just horrendously mispriced. For example, it should be minus 800 and they're pricing it at minus 100. So you lay the 100 and they move it to minus 120 and you bet it again and you bet it again at 140 and you get it at 170 and you lay 200 and then they take it off the board. So there's a ton of value right on the opener. But from between the opener and game day, there's not much value. So that is, if you go to a sports book and they had their props open yesterday and you missed it, there's not going to be much value there until game day.
So during the weeks leading up to game day, during those weeks, the lines on those yes/no bets tend to be relatively accurate?
Well, those no lines are relatively accurate as soon as they come out. The long odds, that is, people who are going to get a high payoff for something happening, those are generally more accurately priced when they come out. But then on game day, everyone keeps betting the yes. Everyone wants to get the big payoff. So they keep betting it, and then the books love us for taking the risk down and betting the nose.
Okay, so let me ask you a few questions that would maybe have a little bit more immediate relevance to a non-professional bettor, someone with a more modest bankroll who's not going to be taking out a home equity loan and running Poisson distributions and all that. First of all, I guess I want to ask, is there any kind of prop that in your experience tends to consistently have value, a type of prop that stands out as one that you've had success with over the years, that someone might be able to find with decent value in the middle of the week, perhaps?
Yeah. The most profitable kind of props are what are called the cross-sport props. So, for example, if they're going to compare the number of Kobe Bryant three-point shots, versus Garcon pass receptions, when there are two different sports that are involved, those have the highest expected value. I mean, I routinely see stuff that's over 20% EV on that.
Okay, and those also aren't the kind of props that are necessarily going to get pounded immediately by sharp action as soon as they come out, because you don't really know exactly which cross-sport props they'll decide to post, right?
Yeah, that's actually, a lot of times those will trickle out during the week. So there'll be the initial barrage, and then a couple days later, the sportsbook gets bored. It's like, let's put up something to just throw some money away. And they put it up and they just get pounded on it.
Okay. And so what else, if anything, would you say to this type of bettor who, who understands there's all this value in the Super Bowl props kicking around and wants to take a shot at making a few good bets, a few likely positive EV bets, but isn't going to be running complex numbers to identify for sure soft lines?
You don't have to be a math whiz to make money on props. The trick is to just look for things that just look not just a little bit off, not a lot off, but just horrendously off. There are props out there that, they're, like I said, they're priced at -100 and they should be -300. So cherry pick, pick the best 5 things you see in all the offshore world and you'll probably make money.
And so you think that those lines are off enough that someone who's not necessarily a pro but who knows the game could pretty easily eyeball them and make some reasonably educated guesses that they're positive EV bets?
Yeah, especially if you're a fan of the team. An example would be if they're, say there's an over-under on how many receptions a wide receiver is going to have, and you see that that number is above every single game he's had for that year, then that's a pretty easy under to play. And you will see just crazy stuff like that everywhere. Right.
Okay. Well, great. I think we're just about done for now. That was a great discussion, Justin. I think people are really going to like this one. Thanks for all this info. So consider all that, everyone. And later on in the week, we'll revisit all this, find out what extraordinarily positive EV bets Justin and his crew put their home equity loans on, and we'll find out what props might still be hanging around with some value, what prop lines to maybe look for on game day that might move and turn into good last-minute bets, and all that. So watch for all that coming up very soon. For SBR.TV, I'm Peter Loshak.